without Eden, our family would not be whole, because in that instance, we would not have the tools or the support to navigate being a parent of a child with autism. So without Eden, we don't have us. Having a team that is there to support you when you are trying to figure out how to help your child. The gratitude I feel for that cannot even be put into words. As much uncertainty as I have felt as a special needs parent on this journey, the uncertainty was times 1,000, if not more, back then in the 1970s.
Uncertainty is at the heart of a family dealing with autism. 50 years ago, the foundational comprehension of autism, its causes and diagnosis, were in their infancy. So it's understandable that a family could feel alone and frustrated.
There was no educational category for autism, so the kids were all classified either as emotionally disturbed or neurologically impaired.
We went a long period of time frustrated, and no one had an answer for you. They just said, well, that's his problem, but I don't know where you can go.
No is a powerful word. It's a word parents never want to hear. Being told there was no place for your child became so commonplace that a dedicated group of parents decided they needed to turn that no into the possibility of yes. So in 1975, a small group of parents laid the foundation of what was to become Eden Autism Services.
David Holmes had gotten a group of parents together and wanted to start our own school. So we had the meeting in the rec room of my parents' house in East Brunswick.
We somehow figured out that we needed to raise about $13,000, as I recall, to pay for initial supplies and even the first round of salaries. But just the logistics of getting something started was a lot to talk about.
And 14 parents went with it to start the school.
Dear parents and friends, well, here we are, a new school with new and abundant energy and enthusiasm.
Eden was in the basement of an old church, so they certainly weren't auspicious quarters, and we didn't know quite what was going on here, what was available, what was going to be expected of us. We were pretty scared. But that went away pretty quickly.
This is the first time that they really had a playmate or somebody that was, they went to school together. Maybe they make friends. Maybe they're friends. That's it. I think that's the key word. Yeah. It was the first time they had a friend.
We were thrilled when we first walked in and saw other guys like David. We had never seen an autistic person, and we just felt like we had come home.
We just used, those basement rooms. That was our school program. And on the weekends, the church used it for Sunday school, so we had to pack up our things and reopen everything up again on Monday morning. So, it wasn't ideal, but it's what we had at that time.
We had our OT was in the boiler room, and it was an old, loud boiler room. And that's where you go and you hear all the banging of stuff, and the kids are like, fine. And
behind my room, there was like a divider, and that's where early childhood was, so I could hear them.
One of our speech therapy room was in the vestibule of a bathroom, and we just did it.
You know, I remember sitting with the other teachers, and we'd say, okay, I was doing this today, and this is what worked, and then saying, okay, let's try and figure out how to break that down and write it. So we're writing a lot of teaching programs and starting to develop what then later became formally the Eden curriculum. But that was really the beginning of it.
And then when we saw our youngsters improving, and we could settle down their anxieties and their behaviors, it made us feel like we were on to something here.
I think we have to give credit to the staff that we had at the time. It was new to them, and they were taking a chance going along with 14 parents, and this was their livelihood.
Yeah.
And I think we were very fortunate and lucky, and a lot of that staff remained on with Eden for about 40 years?
Yes.
If a family had a crisis, 0.3 seconds we were there.
We were doing stuff back when I first started, like helping the kids get to school if they wouldn't come. Cal Marquis and I were hiding in bushes of this kid's house in Sayreville because if he didn't get on the bus, we were going to, show him that we were there and get him on the bus or drive him to school. So we were doing that ever since Eden's been in existence. We're like, hey, we'll do whatever it takes to help these families.
We'd go up and say, how can we help? How can I help? What are your problems? What's going on at home? And that was the beginning of what Eden has now in there, which is a very formal parent support program and respite care and, all of those support services. We discovered how important those were for parents at that time.
As important as family support is for parents, so is the idea of early intervention for the child. It was a novel idea back in the 1970s, but Eden saw the possibilities, recognizing and working with the very youngest children at this critical time in their development.
I knew that we had to do something because the earlier you get started with any issue with a youngster, the more progress you can see in that youngster.
Good, Michael, good boy.
When we started, early intervention was 5 years old. If we got a 5-year-old, we were ecstatic. And funding starts at 3. So we got our first under 3-year-old. Sat down with them. We diagnosed this little 2.5-year-old as having autism. And Mom looked at me and said, what do I do? I said, wait a minute. So I walked into David's office. I said, what am I going to do? I said, we have a 2.5-year-old who we just diagnosed with autism. What can I do? I can't send Mom home. He goes, what do you want to do? I said, well, I want her to come back tomorrow so we can start working with him. He goes, go ahead. And our early intervention program was born that day.
David Holmes and I approached Wawa about the possibility of their supporting this effort to begin an early intervention program, and that we would call it Wawa House. Because of that early intervention, many of the kids who began in that program didn't need the Eden School once they graduated. So that was wonderful to see. And for those that still needed the structure of the Eden School, you knew that they already had a head start.
At its core, the goal of education is connection. For an individual with autism, finding that effective method to communicate is nothing short of transformative. It moves them from isolation into engagement, learning, and independent expression.
We never thought that they couldn't learn. So we were always from the beginning, it's just no one's taught them. So for us, the challenge was how do we approach it? And we sort of started in our heads the same way we would start with a baby. Oh, wait, we have to start with communication. Okay, John couldn't communicate, so we gave him picture cards that he was able to, show us what he wanted.
We started using sign language in the early 80s because these kids who weren't talking We didn't really have an avenue to communicate with them and realize that we needed that.
So in a sense, it was the same teaching as we would a little one, but we respectfully did it with adults and watched all of them so quickly thrive.
When I first started at Eden, we had more of the PEC system, which is the picture exchange communication system. So if a child wants something, they give you the picture, you verbalize what they said, and you're able to give them that item. That was what the majority of our adults and our students were using. We had a couple kids with some voice output systems that were called Alpha Talkers, and they were these very bulky devices that had multiple overlays. Augmentative devices moved to Dynavox, which were a little smaller and they were less bulky and it could be a little bit more fluid, but they were between $8,000 and $10,000. The iPad is just so much more versatile than what the other augmentative devices are, so it has really opened up the world for a lot of our kids. It's so much less stigmatizing because there's so many typically developing children that are walking around with phones and iPads and everything else, that when our kids are walking around with those items, it's not any more stigmatizing than any other child.
Destigmatizing autism isn't just about how a person learns. It's also about how a person lives. We're talking about a home, a place to call our own, independence. To feel like you're a part of a community is a basic human need. Eden realized this, so they proposed the creation of the first group home in the state of New Jersey.
When Dave Holmes first started talking about a group home and all these other things, we were like, really? How are you going to do that?
There was just a group of families that needed their children out of their house, for good reasons for both, for the child and for the family.
It was announced there was going to be a meeting and all parents were invited, everybody. The only agenda item was, should we buy that home and make that our first group home?
We were down there just about every weekend, and we'd work weekends on the house.
This old farmhouse being renovated by Eden will serve as its first group home. It is designed as a residence for youngsters in the vocational rehabilitation program and is also the first group home in the state capable of housing autistic adults.
Well, Jeffrey was 6 years old, and my husband and I said, well, we'll never need that. Now, of course, the irony is that he moved to the old Winston house.
I lived in that house. I was a house parent in Winston House for, maybe a year. And it just was a great experience. And I think what it did for me, you live with autism and you have a completely different appreciation for the parenting part of it.
And now to see so many group homes, it's just mind-boggling.
Finally, his name came off the waiting list for residential services. She had said, we have a placement for Eric, and that's all that I knew. So that weekend, I didn't even know. I was like floating on cloud nine.
And there's times I'll say, you want to stay over at Mom and Dad's house? Do you want to stay over with us? No, I want to go to my place, Mom. And I thought, well, that would be right. A 30-year-old guy should say, Mom, I'd rather go to my place.
As Eden started to grow and we had more and more students, the need for more space became a problem. And it was always a challenge of either needing more space because of the growing number of kids in the school, or needing different space because we were getting thrown out of where we were because the landlords needed the space for something else.
It was frustrating that we had this great program, didn't have the place to show for it, the material, the building to show for it. So we were outgrowing it and knew there was a need to help more people. So we were very excited when we heard that we were, going to renovate this, the building on Route 1.
I worked for AT&T at the time, and we drove by that old building, and one of the fellows I was with said, that's a New Jersey Bell building that I understand they're trying to get rid of it. And so We started some work to see if we couldn't get AT&T to either donate that building or sell it at some kind of a reasonable price, and we were able to do that. Even that space eventually became too small and too difficult to maintain. It was an old building and it had a lot of problems.
There's a new school going up in Plainsboro, and it will be dedicated to children with autism. The Eden Autism Services held a groundbreaking ceremony today to celebrate the construction of its new, uniquely designed autism school.
We got so excited when we saw the plans for this, and after school we'd always drive by and see it as it was being built all the time, you know.
And it was part of Eden's evolution. The accommodations were so well thought out, clearly with the participants in mind. They focused on the classrooms and the space that the participants needed to have in order for them to kind of, do what they can do to have as full a life as possible. So that was pretty impressive.
A truly complete life often includes the deep satisfaction of earning one's own way. Understanding this, Eden championed the need for autistic people to work, earn a wage, provide for themselves.
It was 6 13-year-olds that they wanted me to teach about employment, that they felt these guys eventually when they get older can go out and work. And I was like, okay, I really don't know the curriculum. I really don't know what I'm doing. I'm just supposed to teach them about jobs, but there really was like nothing to follow like there is now as far as what am I supposed to teach. It was just kind of like, teach them about jobs, whatever. Eventually, they'll start working.
How do we get one of the guys to go to work? We've never had somebody with autism working. And Ari started working for us in March of '81. And we thought the best thing would be to have him work in our coffee area. And Ari's very compulsive, so as soon as you filled that coffee cup, Ari thought he had to make another pot. Then you'd have coffee all over the floor, which was okay, you cleaned it up. The customers ended up really protecting him because this would happen and they wouldn't call me. They'd go get the mop and they would clean up for Ari. I would say in that first couple of years after Ari, we must have taken in 12 or 14 young people from here.
They have a 33-year-old who had no skills. All he would do is twirl things, because that's all he did all day, is twirl things, to end up with a job at American Cyanomed when it was across the street. That, for all of us, was just, you'd want to cry. Talking about saving a life. That's almost literally.
When they moved to the new school, and they made this little kind of mini store, and he started working in that mini store, and then shortly after that he started going off-site with a job coach, and he never would have had that opportunity if he had been in the school district. And I think that's prepared him to be able to work now. He works 3 days a week, and sometimes he has got the most steady paycheck around.
Supporting the community, contributing new ideas, whether through work programs, research, lectures, and events. Eden has always been generous in sharing its progress in the field of autism with the larger community. These contributions have led to numerous legislative and legal initiatives that have significantly improved the lives of people living with autism. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know what Eden had to say, and people were listening.
If you've never come across this in your life, then you don't understand. We'd always have visiting persons coming in, senators come in. There's nothing like seeing what's going on here.
We were the hub that everybody learned from because it was new for everybody. But Eden was a guru of autism.
Nurse Alona and I trained.
That was another thing.
Educated.
Oh, yes.
How many doctors did we say over the years? 600?
Probably so.
Something like that.
I'm very pleased to welcome you to the First Eden Institute Foundation's
Princeton lecture series on autism.
So how can I translate the science, the research, into more fine-tuned treatment?
Our goal is to make sure that our children and our family members, no matter what their age, have as best a shot as they can to have a healthy, happy, productive, and independent life.
I think to this day, and I say it about Eden, I said it way back then, if someone would like to see, in as much as you can see, the full spectrum of autism, come to Eden.
For families living with autism, it is a lifelong journey. That's why Eden decided to create a program centered around lifetime services for autistic families. A truly revolutionary idea that creates opportunity for the lifespan of an individual.
And this is something we talked about, as I recall, at those very early meetings, was the idea of lifetime services and how we would always try to find a way to accommodate these kids as they grew into adults and so on.
We all knew we had to have adult services, so we had already had residential. So David Holmes, he went to the state, fought with the state, and they would not fund our program. We wanted our own. And so what he did, and this is one of the trailblazing moments of Eden, is so we had one of our participants, definitely one of our top 5 challenging students. The state said, no, he has to go to another generic adult services program. So we sent him, and the first day, he trashed the place. And the next day, lo and behold, the state funded our program.
It would have been easy to sit back and say, hey, look, we only handle kids up to
21 initially.
And you're on your own after that. Good luck. Goodbye.
Mm-hmm.
And what pure joy on all our part to see at 33, you can learn. You know, you can learn to communicate. You can have a job. You can have a quality of life.
And now, as they are aging, they've got another center for the older kids. It's amazing how adaptable and how they continually try to accommodate everybody they have here.
10, 15, 20 years from now, we're hoping that our son will still be part of Eden. And so, you know, maybe we'll still be here, but 40 years from now, we won't be for sure. And so to me, like the stability of Eden and its ability to provide the level of services that it provides today is one of the most important things in my life.
It's true, we're founding parents and we started a school 50 years ago. But I think what was important is that 14 sets of parents got together and we became a family.
One of the other parents said at one point was, as a group of parents who set up something that would be good for their own children, but then didn't pull up the ladder behind them. And that's something that I try to keep in mind as I think about the future of Eden, is that, you know, we want to keep that ladder there so that other families will be able to get the kind of services that our son has been able to receive.
What began as a simple gesture of providing a better way of life for their children, and the foundational breakthroughs of the decades since, Eden has given the autistic community that most precious gift: a seat at the table, a place to learn, the ability to create lasting opportunity for individuals and families dealing with autism. To dare not to take no for an answer. To hope. To believe that their children deserve a better place in the world.
It is pretty much what we thought it would be. It came out just the way we thought, actually, when we were planning it, a safe community for our youngster and involvement in the community as much as possible. It really is exactly like we always thought it would be. But I think it's because of all the talent and resources that people brought to it that wanted to do something to help these youngsters and did do things that really made it not just what we wanted, but they gave their contribution, and every contribution makes Eden really a wonderful place for everyone.
Eden provides services across the lifespan. Elderly individuals with autism are just as important and are in just as much need as children with autism. And so our job is to ensure that Eden has the resources that it needs in order to do the best that they can.